Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to complete these 3 CC page turn transitions in After Effects. Before we start, my editing Instagram is double.front if you want to go check it out. Starting off, I'm going to be showing you how to do this simple one clip on top of the other page turn up here. You're going to want to stack your clips on top of each other like I have them here, with the clip you want to appear for the page turn on top of the other clip. Select the top clip and press S on your keyboard to open scale. We're going to scale down the clip so that it is smaller than the one behind it. I'm going to change mine to 70%, but you can change yours to whatever you think looks right. Next, we're going to press the Effects and Presets tab and you're going to type in CC Page Turn and you're going to add it to your top clip. You should notice that there's this little circle on your clip now and that the corner is folded. This little circle here is how you control the fold. Before we do that, we're going to move our time indicator back to the beginning of our clip and we're going to go up here and keyframe fold position. Now we're going to go back to the circle in the middle of the clip here and we're going to drag the corner all the way up for the beginning of our fold transition. I like to put my corners together. I think that creates enough of a fold, but you can of course move it to wherever you like. After you position the fold for the beginning of our transition, you're going to move your time indicator towards the end of your clip or wherever you want the transition to end, and you're going to move the fold down or all the way down or leave a little fold at the corner like this or whatever you want. Select your top clip and press U on your keyboard to open the keyframes. Highlight your keyframes and right click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease to easy ease your keyframes. Now I'm going to create a graph. You can follow my graph if you want, or you can do whatever graph you think will look good. And I'm going to change my graph to speed graph instead of value graph in the bottom here. Okay, so after I finished my graph here, I'm watching over the transition that we created and I don't really like how the page turn, it pauses a little bit before it starts. I don't think it looks very smooth. So the way I'm gonna fix this is I'm going to take our first keyframe here. I'm just gonna move it over to before our clip even starts, just back a few keyframes so it looks like the transition is starting before we're seeing it, so it looks more smooth. So select your top clip and take your fold position keyframe and move it back a few frames before our clip starts. Now I'm just going to be adding a few extra details to our transition here. So I'm going to go into the Effects and Presets tab and search Drop Shadow and add it to our top layer. I'm going to change the distance to 0 and the softness to 250. You should notice that it just adds a little bit of a drop shadow detail. I think it looks good. So another detail I'm going to be adding is glow. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I will be doing it. So in the Effects and Presets tab again, I'm going to be searching up S_glow. And if this is a Sapphire plugin, if you don't have Sapphire, I'll show you another way to do glow later, but for now I'm just going to be using this one. I'm going to move the time indicator to the beginning of our clip with the folds, and I'm going to keyframe brightness at 2. I'm going to move my time indicator towards the end of our clip or whenever you want the glow to end. I'm going to bring it back down to 0. And I don't really like how bright it is, so I'm going to go back and change the brightness to 1. So go back to the beginning of your clip where you put your first keyframe and change your brightness instead of 2 to 1. These are just extra little details. You don't have to do them, but I just like to do them. We're now going to be adding a zoom in onto our clip with the page turn. Again, if you think it looks good without the zoom in, you don't have to add it. I forgot to mention this, but if you are doing the scale, you have to turn on motion blur. Motion blur is right here where I'm wiggling my mouse, so please, if you're going to add the scale, turn on motion blur. So I'm going to select my top clip, press S on my keyboard to open scale, and keyframe scale at the beginning of my clip. I'm going to move towards the end of our clip around where our fold ends, and I'm going to keyframe scale again. Moving back over to the beginning of our clip on our first keyframe, I'm going to scale up our clip. I'm going to bring mine up to 180. Going back over to our keyframes, I'm going to highlight our keyframes, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, and Easy Ease our keyframes. Now I'm going to go to the graph editor and create a graph. Change from speed to value graph. You can follow my graph if you'd like. So now we've created a zoom in on top of our fold. Now we are done with our first transition. Next, we're going to be moving on to this page turn reveal transition. You're going to want to stack your clips so the clip you want to be revealed is under your second clip. In the Effects and Presets tab, search up CC Page Turn and add it to your top clip. You're going to want to move your time indicator to where the clip underneath the clip we are working with begins, and you're going to keyframe fold position. Press U on your keyboard to open keyframes, and you're going to want to bring your time indicator to the end of our top clip and keyframe fold position. Bring the time indicator back to where we placed our first keyframe. You're going to want to drag the fold all the way down so that there is no fold in our top clip and the clip beneath it is not visible. Move your time indicator to where our top clip ends, and we're going to zoom out our composition so that we can drag the fold. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to zoom out our composition to 50%. I am now going to drag the fold position all the way up so that the page is completely folded. If you need to zoom out your composition more, you can go ahead and do that so you can drag your fold position all the way up. You should see that the circle that we use to drag our fold position is all the way in the top left of our screen. Next, I'm going to highlight our fold position keyframes, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, and I'm now going to create a graph for these keyframes. I'm going to change my graph to speed graph, and you can follow the graph that I'm creating. I'm going to put our composition back into 100% so we can watch the transition that we created. The last thing I'm going to add is drop shadow to our top clip just for a little bit of an extra detail. So in the Effects and Presets tab, I'm going to search up drop shadow and apply it to our top clip. I'm going to make the distance 0 and the softness 250. We are now done with our second CC page turn transition. For our final tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to do this 2 Polaroid or 2 clip page turn appear. You're going to want to have your base clip at the bottom and have the 2 clips you want to appear for the page turn scattered on top like this. I'm going to be using 2 pictures, but you can use videos as well. I'm also going to be creating these pictures into Polaroids, but you don't have to do it. You can leave them the shape they are, or a square, or a circle, or a heart, or any shape you want, and you can just ignore the first part of this tutorial when I'm making the pictures into Polaroids. If you are creating the Polaroids, you're going to want to download the Polaroid overlay I've linked in the description of this video. Add a Polaroid overlay on top of each of your clips and cut them so that they are the same size as the clip beneath them. Press S on your keyboard and scale your picture so that it fits into the Polaroid. If the picture does not fit after you scale it, use the pen tool or the rectangle tool to mask it. Next, you're going to want to pre-compose the Polaroid and the picture inside of it together. Highlight the 2 clips, right-click, and pre-compose. Make sure that you're using the same pre-compose settings that I am. Now we are going to position our Polaroids. I'm going to start by selecting the Polaroid that appears first. I'm going to press S on my keyboard and scale down my Polaroid to how small I want it to be. I end up changing the scale to 65%. Next, I'm going to press P on my keyboard to open position. I'm going to drag the first value until my Polaroid moves to where I want it to be. I end up with my first value changed to 619. Next, I'm going to press R on my keyboard to open rotation so I can also rotate my Polaroid a little bit as well. I end up changing the rotation value to -5. But of course, with all of these values, you can change them to whatever you think looks good. Now we're going to do this again to our second Polaroid. Select your second Polaroid, and I'm going to start with rotation. Our first Polaroid's rotation was -5, so I'm going to make this Polaroid's rotation the opposite, which will be 5. Next, press S on your keyboard for scale, and I'm going to make it the same as the other clip, which is 65%. Lastly, I'm going to press P on my keyboard and drag my Polaroid to the opposite side from the previous clip, which ends up changing the first value to 1413. Now we're going to add CC page turn to our 2 clips. In the Effects and Presets tab, search for CC Page Turn and add it to your first Polaroid. Keyframe fold position at the beginning of this clip. Now we want to drag the fold, and you should notice that the circle we use to drag the fold position is in the middle of our composition. We're going to drag the circle so that the clip is not folded. Move your time indicator to where you want the fold position to end and press U on your keyboard in keyframe fold position. I'd also like to point out that there is another way you can drag to fold position. You should notice that there is this button next to fold position that creates this thing we can also use to fold our clip. We are now going to move our time indicator back to the beginning of our first Polaroid, and we're going to drag our fold up. I'm going to drag the fold to its opposite corner, but you can of course drag it more or less if you'd like. I'm going to move my time indicator to where I want the fold to end, and I'm going to bring the corner to where it is folded up just a little bit. Now we are going to highlight these fold position keyframes. Right click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, and I'm going to create a graph, and you can follow along if you'd like. Make sure you change your graph from value graph to speed graph. Now we are going to repeat these steps for our second Polaroid. Drag your time indicator to the beginning of your second Polaroid and add CC Page Turn from the Effects and Presets tab. Move your time indicator to where you want the fold to end, press U on your keyboard, and keyframe fold position. Move your time indicator back to the beginning of your clip and drag your fold position up for the beginning of the fold transition. I'm going to bring the corners together. Next, drag your time indicator to the end of your fold transition and drag the fold so that the corner is folded up a little bit. Highlight your fold position keyframes, right-click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, and we are now going to create a graph. You can follow my graph if you'd like. Now that we've completed the page turns, we are going to add drop shadow to our two Polaroids. In the Effects and Presets tab, search Drop Shadow and add it to your first Polaroid. Change the distance to 0 and the softness to 250. Repeat this for your second Polaroid. I'm now going to add glow to our two Polaroids. I'm also going to be showing you an alternative way to add glow if you do not have the Sapphire plugin. First, I'm going to be adding the Sapphire glow. In Effects and Presets, I'm going to search for S_glow and add it to my first Polaroid. Move your time indicator to the beginning of the clip and add a keyframe for brightness and change the brightness to 1. Move your time indicator to where you want the glow to end and add a keyframe for brightness at 0. Now we are going to be creating the glow without Sapphire. In the Effects and Presets tab, search for Exposure and add it to your remaining Polaroid. You are going to bring the time indicator to the beginning of your clip and drag the exposure up until you think the glow is bright enough. I ended up bringing mine to 1.5. Bring your time indicator to where you want the glow to end and bring your exposure down to 0. So now we have our Sapphire glow on our first Polaroid and the alternative glow on the second Polaroid. I'm going to make it so both have the Sapphire glow just for consistency. Next, we'll be adding a zoom to each of our Polaroids. If you like what we've made without the zoom, then you can just ignore this next part. I'm going to select our first Polaroid and drag my time indicator to the beginning of our clip. I'm going to press S on my keyboard to open scale and keyframe scale. Now I'm going to bring my time indicator to where I want the scale to end towards the end of our clip and keyframe scale again. Moving back to the beginning of our clip, I'm going to increase the scale. I changed the scale to 180. I am now going to highlight our scale keyframes, Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease, and I'm now going to create a graph. I'm going to change from speed graph to value graph. This next point is very important. You have to turn on motion blur with these scales. We are now going to be repeating the same scale process with our second Polaroid. Move your time indicator to the beginning of our clip, press S on your keyboard, and keyframe scale. Moving to where you want the scale to end, add another keyframe. Moving back to the beginning of our clip, I'm going to change the scale to 180. I'm going to highlight our scale keyframes, right-click, Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease, and I'm now going to be creating the graph. We are now done our final CC page turn transition. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have any requests for other tutorials or other videos, please comment them down below. My editing Instagram is double.front if you want to go check it out. If you liked this video, please share it with someone else that you think will also like it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everybody!